Howdy mates, good morning. It is Sunday, April 24th, 2022. And it's crazy to think that it is already approaching towards the end of April. It's crazy to me. Like we're almost approaching into May. Like, how? So as part of today's excursion, I wanted to take the opportunity to revisit the Myakka River State Park. Partly because we are approaching into the blooming season, especially when it comes to the spring wildflowers. And in addition, we may also see a plethora of wildlife. So like particularly where I'm heading to right now is at a spot called the Deep Hole, which this is actually my third time visiting. My first trip was back in December, my second was in February, and now this is my third one in April. So I'm just interested in seeing how much the area has changed in a matter of a couple of months. And I also figured too, with the temperatures being the way they are, I figured I'd come out here for a visit before it gets too hot, because it will in a matter of time. But primarily, where we're walking through right now is actually something called a dry prairie. So what that basically means is it has to do with how much rain comes through here. So, you know, of course we have the wet season, right? Which is actually coming up very soon. That means we're going to have ample amounts of rainfall. It is usually oftentimes erratic. Now, with that being said, you know, since primarily where we're walking through, the state soil of Florida is Myakka fine sand. And this usually goes for quite a few feet before it actually gets into more of the clay and even limestone deposits. To think in a sense, some of the what you call soil topography is very similar to that of Ohio, based on those simple parameters. However, though, Florida is a little more direct. It's mostly like fine sand, a little bit of silt, and even a little bit of clay, and then limestone. But unlike in my home state of Ohio, it's a lot more complex. Because, well, the land in Ohio has been further away from the ocean for a longer period of time. So going back to the point that I was making, they call this a dry prairie because typically with sand, excuse me, it's very, what you call, I in a sense want to say unconsolidated. It's very porous. There we go. That's the word I'm looking for. Porous. So since fine sand is very porous, that actually allows water to pass through very quickly. And that water is typically used up very quickly too in a prairie like this. So here's the thing. A lot of the plants that survive out here, you know, for instance, the saw palmetto that you're seeing to my right, or even the rusty Lyonia right in front of me, you know, these plants have quite extensive roots that go underground. They could be as deep as 10 to 15 feet. And that's just simply because we're in a dry prairie. The soil can dry up very quickly if we don't get an ample amount of rain. So typically, prescribed burns happen here every 1 to 2 years. So they're actually very frequent. And you can actually tell to my left, a prescribed burn happened not that long ago. Just based on some of the black that we're seeing. And then, of course, just some of the new growth. Because prescribed burns, what they typically do is they disperse seeds. And oftentimes, even our slash pine that we see in front of us, they rely on those burns so that their needles can spread. And then eventually in their cones too. Thus eventually allowing new growth. So it's all one big cycle that tries its best to reach an equilibrium. The nature always finds a way. So, all right, you guys, take care. Stay tuned for my next videos coming up. And once again, Journey on a Journey is outwards. Take care, folks. See ya.